Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining us today. We're looking at something that honestly sounds like straight up science fiction, but it's happening right now in hospitals all over the world. We're diving into the AI surgical revolution. For decades, the operating room has pretty much been defined by human manual labor, right? Physical dexterity, steady hands. But artificial intelligence is completely transforming that space, from a place of purely manual labor into one of incredibly intelligent automation. So let's just dive right into this.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First up, we'll cover the AI surgical revolution. Second, the three pillars of precision. Third, faster, safer patient recovery. Fourth, navigating the real-world barriers. And finally, we'll look at the future operating room.
All right, section one, the AI surgical revolution. I want you to just think about this single jaw-dropping number, 40%. Recent peer-reviewed studies are showing us that AI-assisted robotic surgery actually improves surgical precision by 40% compared to your traditional manual methods. We're not talking about some marginal tiny gain here. This is a massive leap in capability. And this elevated precision is absolutely critical when we're talking about highly sensitive procedures, things like tumor resections or complex implant placements, where literally a fraction of a millimeter can be the difference between total success and failure.
And that 40% increase in precision, it actually has a very direct real-world human benefit. It shortens post-operative recovery times by an average of 15%. Because there's less tissue trauma and fewer errors, patients are getting out of the hospital and getting back to their normal lives significantly faster. But you're probably wondering, how exactly are these robotic systems actually pulling this off? Well, let's find out.
Which brings us to section two, three pillars of precision. So how do we actually hit that 40% precision mark? Well, we can basically break the underlying technology down into three really digestible pillars. We've got intraoperative video analysis, neurovisual adaptive controls, and digital twins. This trio right here, this is exactly what gives modern robotic systems their intelligence. We are completely moving away from your standard, rigid surgical tools and moving toward learning, adapting robotic assistance. Let's unpack the first really massive breakthrough, digital twins. Just imagine a surgeon being able to virtually practice a high-stakes, incredibly complex surgery on a personalized virtual clone of your exact anatomy before they even make a single physical cut. It's wild, right? This lets the surgical team simulate the whole procedure, anticipate any of your unique complications, and basically rehearse their exact movements. It is the ultimate preparation, making sure the team is perfectly primed to achieve those massive precision improvements right out of the gate. Next up is intraoperative video analysis. So in this case, AI continuously scans the live video feed during the actual surgery. Kind of think of it as an incredibly vigilant co-pilot that literally never blinks. By constantly tracking movements, offering procedural guidance, and instantly detecting potential hazards, it actually stops errors before they even happen. Preventing these critical mistakes is a huge driver behind that 15% faster recovery time we were just talking about. And the third pillar is neurovisual adaptive control. Think of this as your real-time safety net. Say a surgeon's hand slips slightly, or maybe the patient's anatomy shifts unexpectedly during the operation. Well, the system uses dynamic intraoperative monitoring to instantly adapt the robotic arms. It minimizes any unintended movements and prevents extra tissue trauma. This dynamic, real-time collaboration, that is the ultimate key to unlocking that 40% leap in overall surgical precision. Moving on to section three, faster, safer patient recovery. To really anchor this data in a real-world scenario, we're going to contrast traditional manual surgical methods with these new AI-assisted methods. Specifically, we'll look at a retrospective controlled trial focusing on thoracolumbar fractures. Now, this is a highly delicate spinal procedure where surgical precision is just absolutely paramount. The contrast in the actual metrics here is just stark. Just look at the complication rate. It drops exactly in half, going from 12.2% in manual surgery straight down to 6.1% with AI assistance. But even more impressively, screw misplacement, which is obviously a major risk in any spinal procedure, plummets from over 10% to just 2.5%. And this is exactly where that faster recovery time really materializes. Because the surgery is so much less traumatic, patients are actually leaving the hospital about 1.3 days sooner. And, as you might expect, those clinical successes have a massive economic ripple effect. Faster recovery and fewer errors directly translate into serious cost savings. The source data shows that reduced hospital stays save an average of $1,500 per patient, and avoiding those postoperative complications, that saves anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 per surgery. So over time, these savings really prove the cost-effectiveness of these systems, ultimately offsetting those really high initial price tags. Let's actually pause the data drop for just a second. I want to reflect on the core philosophy behind these human-in-the-loop systems. There's a great quote that AI should augment, not replace human experts. And that hits the nail on the head. These robots are designed to be intelligent collaborators, not autonomous replacements. They handle the crazy micro-precision and all the real-time data synthesis, which frees up the human surgeon to focus on the overall strategy and their clinical judgment. All right, Section 4, navigating the real-world barriers. So, based on the research, widespread adoption still faces 4 primary structural barriers. First, we have fragmented interoperability, basically getting these incredibly advanced AI systems to properly talk to older hospital IT networks. Second, the incredibly high upfront capital and maintenance costs. Third, there's a serious risk of widening health disparities in low-resource settings. And finally, algorithmic data bias. Let's actually zoom in on those last 2 points for a minute, because they present some really unique logistical challenges.
The basic economics of his hardware actually create quite a divide. The source material outlines that high-volume, wealthy urban centers can often achieve a return on investment for these expensive robots in just 3 to 5 years, mostly just because they process so many patients. But rural or underfunded clinics, they just don't have the patient volume to absorb those massive fixed costs. So the stark logistical reality is the risk of creating a 2-tiered system where your geographic location basically dictates whether or not you have access to this AI-augmented precision.
Then we have the silent threat of algorithmic bias. An AI model is truly only as accurate as the data it learns from. Historically, a lot of these models have been trained predominantly on data from wealthy urban populations. And because of this representation gap, the research notes that these systems can actually sometimes underdiagnose or even misclassify marginalized or rural groups simply because their data wasn't adequately included in the initial training sets. It's a huge ongoing hurdle that developers are actively trying to correct right now. Finally, Section 5, the future operating room. The ultimate goal moving forward is balancing this incredible autonomous precision with essential human empathy. The data clearly shows us that AI and robotics handle precision, data synthesis, and repetitive movements absolutely flawlessly. But the sources also heavily emphasize that preserving basic human virtues, things like care, trust, and nonverbal communication, remains completely irreplaceable. AI simply cannot hold a patient's hand or help them navigate the really complex emotional landscape of a severe diagnosis. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative question to chew on. As AI completely takes over the flawless precision of surgery, how do we ensure the operating room retains the human empathy and the global equity that's actually needed for true healing? It's a really delicate balance between cutting-edge technological autonomy and our shared human experience. And honestly, it's a challenge we absolutely must meet to ensure these tools benefit everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.